Hello guys, this is Dr. Possibility from Excel Academy. Please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, for we have a lot of content which are very important for your academic life. In this video, I'm just trying to explain and label some parts of the synovial joint. We need to understand that we have different types of synovial joint, such as a saddle joint, such as the ball and socket, such as the pivot joint, all different types of joint. But in this case, we are simply looking at the general structure of this synovial joint and how to label them. We need to understand that these synovial joints are made up of a fluid which is found in the synovial cavity, and this fluid is known as the synovial fluid. But let's quickly move on and discuss something. So the first question is, label the following diagram. So in this diagram, we can simply start with A, and if you look at A, this is just a bone, and the type of bone is just a sponge bone. If we look at B, B is just the joint capsule, and this joint capsule is just trying to protect and enclose the synovial fluid. Then we have the articular cartilage. So if you look at the articular cartilage, which is this part, so the articular cartilage is a type of hyaline cartilage. Articular cartilage is the type of hyaline cartilage. But in this case, when you talk of the articular cartilage, it does not have the perichondria. Remember that the articular cartilage does not have a perichondria. And this articular cartilage, it is avascular. As a result, it doesn't have blood vessels. Instead, it normally gets its nutrient from the synovial cavity by the process of diffusion. When we talk of D, D is simply the synovial membrane. And then the last one, which is just the joint cavity filled with synovial fluid. Remember, in my preamble, I said that the synovial joint has an important structure, and this structure is simply the synovial cavity. And this synovial cavity, it contains the synovial fluid. Let's quickly move on and look at another diagram on the synovial joint. In this case, we have also been asked to label the diagram, and when you look at A is simply the periosteum. So you need to understand that when you talk of the bone has the episteum, it has the periosteum, and also the endosteum. Please make sure that you watch our video on the muscles and also on the skeletal system to understand what the periosteum is, episteum, and endosteum. Let's quickly move on and look at B. So when we check out B, B is just the synovial membrane. If you look at how the synovial membrane was shown in the previous slide, you understand that there is a little bit of difference, but they are just one and the same. Let's quickly move on and look at C. C is simply the fibrous layer of the capsule. Remember, in the previous one, we looked at the capsule, but in this case, we have been told to specify, and this is just the fibrous layer of the capsule. Remember, the capsule has two layers. There is the fibrous layer and also the serous layer. Okay. Then the last one, the one which is labeled as D, this is known as the articular cavity. Remember that the articular cavity, it normally contains the synovial fluid. The other one is the articular cartilage. I think I've already explained what the articular cartilage is and one important feature about the articular cartilage. So you need to understand that the articular cartilage will normally get its nutrient from the articular cavity by the process of diffusion. So nutrients, they normally penetrate through the cavity into the articular cartilage by the process of diffusion. You need to understand that this articular cartilage, it is playing a vital role in the what? In the joint. As a result, it needs to be regularly be nourished, meaning it needs to have a constant supply of nutrients. Let's quickly look at F. F is simply the sponge bone. Remember, we have two types of bones that we need to consider under gross anatomy. We have sponge bone and also the compact bone. So please make sure that you know what a sponge bone is and what a compact bone is. Let's quickly look at G. G is just the compact bone. So if you observe, you're going to find that the inside is having the sponge bone and the outside is having the compact bone. Then there you can just look at simply look at the bone the marrow cavity. So when you talk of the marrow cavity, this is just helping in the production of lymphocytes, in the production of blood cells such as the red blood cells and also other stuffs. Let's quickly move on and look at the next diagram. The next diagram, we have been taught to label the diagram. So if you look at the label of this diagram, you need to understand that number 7 is just the what? Is just the sponge bone. So this is simply the sponge bone if you check out there. Then if you move, you need to understand that when you talk of 3 is simply the synovial membrane. This is synovial membrane. Okay, so there on 3 we have the synovial membrane. And then when you talk of 5 is simply the articular cartilage. Okay, this is just the articular cartilage. Okay, and then we have 6 is just the synovial cavity having the synovial fluid. So we can just simply say the synovial fluid. And then 4, if you look at 4 is the same bone as 7. So this is just the spongy bone. So that's a sponge bone. And then when you look at 1 is simply the compact bone, though it's not clear, but it has to be the compact bone because this guy is going there. So this is just the compact bone. All right. Then in this joint, when you look at the label marked 2, and this can just be it can just be the capsule, it can just be the capsule. Sometimes for some diagram it normally shows the ligaments also. So it depends on which diagram was used by your lecturer. Sometimes it can be the ligament, and sometimes it can be the capsule. So when you talk of the ligament is just trying to connect this joint to that joint, stabilizing the joint. So these are just some of the things that you need to consider when we are talking about the synovial joint. So guys, this was Dr. Possibility from Excel Academy. Thank you very much for joining me, and please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel.